All right, yo, what's going on, guys? I think this video here is going to be relatable to a lot of people. We all have FOMO in some aspects or another. I've experienced it a lot, here in Thailand, and I've done a lot of thinking, a lot of inner reflection. And I realized that, this is overall, it's in the modern day, it's not really something that we should be having. So if you feel like you're experiencing FOMO a lot and it's not really something that is doing you much good, this video is going to be just for you. So let's get into the video. Let's start analyzing what FOMO is and why it's holding us back. So what is FOMO and why do we have it? So FOMO is the fear of missing out. That's what it stands for, fear of missing out. For our ancestors, historically, it was important that they did not miss out on the hunt, the spoils of war. And then they needed to be in a community. They needed to belong in a community. They didn't want to get kicked out of the tribe. So they always wanted to be together with people. That's why we have like that kind of herd mentality. If you're by yourself, it's much harder to survive, at least back then. Nowadays, FOMO is an irrational fear that only serves to trigger negative emotion, needless overthinking, and poor decision making. So most of the time now, our FOMO is not, driven by an instinct to like survive. Like we don't need to experience in order to survive, but rather we just have FOMO to kind of want to experience pleasure, or we feel like we need to go see something that everyone else saw, or we need to go somewhere, or we need to try some kind of food, or like these kind of things. But it's not actually something that's important. So it might not seem like a big deal to you, but if you experience FOMO a lot, it's really going to hold you back. So in this video, we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. We're going to analyze it, and we're going to go over the negatives of it, and we're going to break it down. We're going to deconstruct it. So what are you even fearing? So what's actually important to you? Do you really care about whatever that thing that you're fearing and missing out on? Is it really that important to you? It depends. Some people, they really want to go to every single party. They want to go to every single vacation. They need to see everything that their friends saw. But for a lot of us, it's not actually that important to you. It's just like we feel like maybe we should have done that. We need to do it, but we don't actually have to. So do you know why you have set the goals you have? So the goals, like the long-term goals, things that are actually important to you. Do you know why you have set those goals? If you do, then you should understand that those are more important than doing like random things that might give you some pleasure or that someone else has done. Are you not highly motivated to do what is important to you? So you need to actually do a bit of reflection, because once you look at it head on, so FOMO attacks you from the side, from behind, because it's kind of like an irrational fear. It's not like actually something you need to be like thinking of, but so FOMO, it attacks you kind of like from the side, from behind. It's kind of telling you like at the edge of your mind, like, oh, you need to do this, you need to do that. But if you really think about what's important to you, if you really reflect and like look at, what the options are, you should be very clear, like why you shouldn't care about the thing that you have FOMO about, and why you should care more about your goals. So have you thought about how partaking in these events that you have FOMO about, have you thought about how partaking in those events are actually going to affect you positively? What is that going to do for you? Is that something that you're really going to be happy that you did? Is it going to be like something that's going to give you long-term satisfaction? Or is it just something that's going to give you short-term pleasure? Is it something that you're not even going to like? You're just doing it because everyone else told you to do it. So think about that. Have you thought about how partaking in these events will affect you negatively? So like think about how much time you're going to waste, partaking in this event, how much energy, how much money that you're going to waste partaking in these random events like that no one cares about. No one's going to care that you didn't do it. No one's going to care that you did do it. So think about what you're actually fearing about. Look at it head on. So FOMO is holding you back from your goals. So you should have FOMO about your goals. So have FOMO about your goals. That means think of how bad it would be if you weren't able to accomplish your goals, if you weren't able to finish the mission that you started. You actually miss out on more when you allow FOMO to take over your mind. Think about what you are actually really motivated to do, what your long-term goals are, and what FOMO will do to prevent you from achieving these. So now we're going to go into why it's really, really accelerated in this day and age with technology, with social media, with their phones. So we have highlight reel syndrome, which is basically when we look at social media, we look at someone's Instagram reel, we look at their pictures, and we see the absolute best parts of whatever vacation they went on, whatever place they went to go eat, whatever it is. We see the best parts. It's like a highlight reel, but we're not seeing the whole story. So because of highlight reel syndrome, it makes it look a lot more appealing. It makes it look a lot better than it actually might be. Social validation. So we want to have the same, we want to belong. We want people to look at us and be like, wow, that's really great. I can't believe you went there. I can't believe you tried this thing. We want to do that too. We want that kind of validation from social. We want that kind of validation socially, connected globally. So, back in the day, it was just you and your tribe. If two other guys were doing something, it makes sense why you would also want to do that thing. You didn't want them to like experience something or like get ahead of you and then you get left behind. But nowadays, the sample size is it's the whole world. We have social media, we have the internet. So you're seeing like the top 1% from across the world. You're seeing how this guy went and did this thing and then went to that place and ate this food and has this body and whatever else. But that's only like one guy in like 7 billion or 8 billion, whatever the population is. So you have to realize that the sample size is huge. We're not just looking at like our own tribe locally. We're looking at the whole entire world. So having FOMO in this kind of regard is very irrational. So let's look at some of the psychological backdrops, because we did say FOMO is a mental illness. So let's look at how it relates to mental illness. FOMO, it's literally anxiety. So you're anxious about something that you're missing out on. It's literally anxiety. It can create chronic stress. So you're constantly worrying, you're constantly thinking about something that you haven't experienced, something that you're missing out on. Impacts on your self-esteem and self-worth. So literally it's bringing you down. It's making you feel less. It's making you feel like not worthy. Unhealthy comparisons. So you're making unreasonable, unhealthy comparisons that, are illogical. Makes you feel inferior or your life inadequate. Relates to this point up here where it impacts your self-esteem and self-worth. It makes you feel inferior. It makes you feel inadequate. So it's like you're irrationally feeling these negative emotions. Constant worry. And FOMO, it's a vicious cycle. The more you allow it into your system, into your kind of space, the more it takes over. The more it kind of controls your mind and takes over your life. For me, personally, like I'll give you an example. I was kind of on my own kind of vibe, doing my own thing. Then I felt like, I'm here in Koh Samui. There's a full moon festival in a few days. So, I'm only here for 1 month. So this is my only chance to go see it. Might as well go see it. I have to go see it. Everyone's saying, you need to go see this beach more. It's the best thing ever. So I go see it. It was lit. It was really fun. But so it's kind of like I allowed FOMO in for a second. And then once I'm there, I realized everyone there is going to Koh Tao to go like snorkeling and stuff. Everyone's like, you got to go see this. You got to go see this. So you can see it's like it continues. The cycle continues. But luckily I was able to catch myself. I was like, listen, do I really want to go snorkeling? Or do I want to just come back to Samui and like start getting set up and doing my work that I want to do? So like luckily I was able to stop myself. But you can see how the cycle perpetuates itself. If I went to Koh Tao to go snorkeling or something, then someone else would have said, oh, come to Koh Lanta or go to Koh Phi Phi. You didn't go to Koh Phi Phi. You need to go to Koh Phi Phi. It would have just kept going. Oh, you need to go to Ao Nang. You need to do... There's always going to be one more thing to do. There's always going to be one more thing to miss out on. So you need to really just take a grasp of what's actually real. You need to take a grasp of reality. Be very mindful of how you're thinking. All right, let's move on to our next point. It's for weak people. Let's be very honest. It's for weak people. If you have FOMO, you're not strong. It's not a show of strength. It's a show of weakness. You need social validation. People have FOMO. They want social validation. They want to be validated by others. You want to follow the pack, the herd, everyone else. This kind of mentality, it's not good, man. You don't want to be a sheep. You don't want to be following everyone else. You want to, of course, it's okay to do what everyone else is doing if you truly want to do that, if that's something you really believe in. But if you're just doing it because others are doing it, then it doesn't make sense. It's not something that's actually good for you. You're scared of taking your own path. You're scared of what others will think of you. It's a fear-based mindset. You're fearing missing out. It's a negative emotion. You're fearing what it would be like to not experience something. It's a fear-based mindset. You're emotionally fragile. People who have FOMO base their happiness on the experiences of others, on the validation of others. You don't want to be like that. You want to be internally motivated. You want your emotions to be internally sourced so that you can be happy based on what makes you happy. You can be confident based on the things that you've done. Lack self-confidence. So with FOMO, of course, you're not confident in yourself. You're not confident in your values, your beliefs, the things that you intrinsically want to do. Let's go over quickly some behaviors just to cover, because we said it's a mental illness. So let's cover the behaviors really quickly. Obsessive checking of social media, impaired decision making. You make incorrect decisions. You make hasty decisions. Also, FOMO can lead to social isolation a lot, because if you can't perpetuate the same kind of life that everyone else is, you feel like you don't deserve to represent yourself. So you kind of isolate yourself. You're scared of representing who you are. You're scared of being confident in your own skin, basically. So it's actually kind of like a funny thing, because FOMO is something that you think like it would make you more social, but actually it perpetuates social isolation. All right, let's go to the next point. They're lying to you. Most people are going to exaggerate. So let's be real. Most people exaggerate their experience. They're always going to like try to hype it up and make it seem a bit better than it always was. Some people do this more than others. I know some people do this a lot. They'll like cap everything. Everything's a cap that comes out of their mouth. Sometimes some people will be like more honest, but overall, on average, most people will exaggerate to some degree, some extent. They tend to, make the good parts seem better. Trying to make the good parts seem like they happen more frequently, and they tend to omit a lot of the bad things that maybe they experienced or they'd rather not talk about. They always want to one-up you, so it's natural. Even I do this sometimes. Like you kind of want to, when you describe something, you kind of want to one-up the other person. Especially if someone's talking about something good, you kind of want to say, "Oh yeah, that was good," but look, have you seen this? And then you kind of basically, it's just like you're talking about the good things. It makes sense why they do it, but it's good to be mindful of how those conversations work. They're talking about things that they like, not you. So I remember I was talking with somebody who's like telling me about like Europe and like how like exciting it was to travel Europe, and they're just showing me like pictures of like stone buildings. They're like, "Wow, this is so amazing." I'm like, bro, if I went there and spent all that money to travel and then see like just stone buildings, like it's not like something I really like. Maybe you would like it or maybe someone else would like it, but for me, it's like I don't like that. So you have to realize that even if they're not lying, like they're saying things that they like, not necessarily that you like or that you would have to like that. And lastly, we all know this is something that I think we all kind of know, but we don't actually like think about consciously. They also have FOMO and want others to do what they did. So basically, it's like reverse FOMO. If someone does something, they're more likely to recommend it to other people, even if it wasn't that great. They kind of want others to repeat and do what they did, if that makes sense. So as a recap, let's go over FOMO. It's something that really holds back your mental health. We covered the slide with the mental health. We went over all the factors that why FOMO, why it makes your mental health suffer. If you compare it to the DSM-5, which is it's a list of criteria to show when something becomes a mental disorder or mental illness. You compare it to the DSM-5 list, and you can see that FOMO is actually it perpetuates a mental illness. It delays or stops altogether your long-term goals. So anytime you partake in FOMO, or you allow it to seep into your mind, you are being held back from your long-term goals. That's time and energy and money and effort that you're not putting towards your long-term goals. It is weak. We covered a slide where it's just weakness. You're emotionally fragile. You rely on others. It's just not something that perpetuates strength. Leads to poor behaviors, and it's a vicious cycle. It cycles. We talked about my example with going to Kopangang, going to the Moonlight Festival or whatever it's called, Full Moon Festival, and then how it almost led to the next thing where I was like, okay, go to Katao. Okay, now what? I'm sure if I went to Katao, then the next thing would have been okay, do something else. So it's a vicious cycle. So the best bet is to just avoid it entirely. So what to do? Identify the cause of it. So what's causing your FOMO? Identify the cause of it. Is it because you feel like you're missing out on some kind of pleasure? Does it feel like because you want some kind of social validation? Most likely, if those are the reasons, if you feel like you have FOMO because someone else is telling you to do something, or because you feel like you're missing out on something pleasurable, chances are it's not a valid thing that you need to partake in, because you should be motivated to do what you want. The only valid way FOMO should exist is like, okay, you need to eat, and like that's the only way you can eat, which is not going to happen in today's society. Or you need to belong to a tribe, which again, it's not going to happen. You can choose your tribe. We're connected globally now, so you don't need to belong to a tribe. Chances are you have FOMO because you're having too many thoughts. You're allowing these thoughts to come in from the side and from behind. If you clear your mind and you really look at things properly, you will understand that FOMO is an irrational fear. Understand that you cannot do everything, and you have to pick what's important. You can't do everything in life. You can't do like 5 things at once, and you only have a limited amount of time. So focus on one thing. Focus on your one goal, and later you can choose what to do. If you still want to do that one thing, it'll still be there later. You don't need to do it right now. You don't need to do everything, all the pleasure-seeking activities right now. So links to anxiety, face it head on. So I covered it a couple times this video, but I'll just say it straight. Anxiety is something that exists in the shadows. It exists in the side and from behind. So it's literally an irrational fear. That's what anxiety is. So if you were to face the irrational fear and look at it directly, you would realize how irrational it is, right? Because it's an irrational fear. So it only exists in the shadows. Once you look at it, once you shine a light on it, you can see that it doesn't make any sense. It's not something that you should actually be worrying about. So again, clear your mind, face it head on. Once you can do that, you'll realize that there's no point to it. Stay focused on your goals. So make your goals your priority. It's as simple as that. Understanding your contentment. So basically that means think about what makes you happy and why that makes you happy. If it's not related to the thing that you feel FOMO about, you shouldn't be worrying about that. You should be worrying about what makes you happy and why it makes you happy. You should be worrying about what actually matters to you. Anyways, guys, that's going to take us to the end of this video. I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you got something out of it. If you have any thoughts, please share it in the comments below. Please like the video if you did. Subscribe if you're not already. Go check out my music. With that being said, I'll see you guys in the next one.